This is Kelly from What's the Obsession. Thanks for taking time to watch this video. Something I've learned about the true crime community, particularly since I started this channel about 2 years ago, is that the community as a whole, or certain sub-communities, prefer to indulge in outlandish conspiracy theory and at times baseless speculation over adhering to the facts and using logic to work out the actual events and details of a case. And hey, like, I get that. And, you know, I guess there is a time and place for that, for sure. Yeah, absolutely there is. But we do have to ask ourselves, you know, at what expense? There are so many things that can be questioned legitimately about this case and about this investigation. There are a ton of them. So while this channel will continue to question the aspects of the investigation and statements from officials that warrant questioning, I do have to set the facts straight when it comes to issues involving the victims' families and that may be hurtful to the victims' families. That's just like what we do here. So what we're going to be looking at is the timeline from after when the tragic murders happened up until the 911 call. And, you know, we're always looking at, because of my connection with the Sigma Chi fraternity guys who are friends with Ethan Chapin and are close with the Chapin family, you know, how far in advance of that 911 call did some students, you know, get called to the house or learn a little bit about what happened? And then there's this issue of when did the Gonsalves family find out? So all of your answers are right here. I think that the facts speak for themselves. And as far as I'm concerned, this issue is put to bed. Actually, it really never was an issue in my mind in the first place. But that doesn't mean it's not an issue in your mind. And also, this little part of the timeline is connected to what the two Sigma Chi fraternity members, who are Ethan Chapin's close friends, have been telling us all along about the actual events and details of that horrible morning that they say was just like any other day until it wasn't. And, you know, if we want to get to the bottom of things, if we want to discover the truth and untangle all of the mess that exists out there, we need to stick with the truth. So that's what we're doing. Here we go. Now, let me be clear, in nowhere ever, it does not exist where anyone in the Gonsalves family said that they were notified about their daughter's death in the morning hours of that day, November 13th, 2022. That was never said by any member of the Gonsalves family. Never. When you watch scores of hours of commentary or interviews on a specific topic, especially a true crime case, it's very upsetting and people's emotions get the best of them and become stronger than their thinking minds, you're certainly going to find someone saying something that was said out of emotion or that was, you know, just said a little inaccurately because they're freaking crying and devastated because they just lost somebody that they love to a murder. So there is this one young woman who is friends with Christy Gonsalves who says that she tried to text her in the morning of November 13th and she didn't get back to her. But, you know, they're college students. And remember, the 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. When I was in college, man, I easily could have woken up at 1 and been, you know, eating my eggs and pancakes and calling that the morning. So I just don't feel as though we can give that a whole lot of weight. What I do feel that we can give a lot of weight to is the Gonsalves family's statements, the words that come directly from their mouths. Now, we do know that Steve Gonsalves has a way of embellishing things. I've always said this about him ever since he's been talking about the case and we've been talking about him, that he has a very unique way of saying things. Like, nobody phrases things or explains things exactly like Steve Gonsalves. He is his own G-man, that's for sure. aside from those Steve Gonsalves quirks that make him him, the Gonsalves family has been and will continue to be very accurate in what they are saying, because after all, I'm sure for every member of that family, these moments in that day when they learned that Kaylee's life had been taken when she was 21 years old and was looking forward to a bright future, and they loved her so dearly. Those memories, those moments are etched indelibly in their minds. This is actually a psychological fact based in research and data. And they're not likely to get the details wrong. Details like, when did you receive the call where you first learned that your daughter was murdered? I'm telling you, Christy Gonsalves is not going to get that wrong.
The phone call the Gonsalves family received on November 13th is one they'll never forget.
We were, it was Sunday around
We were watching football.
1-ish, and we were
like
watching
every
football.
family, or a lot of families on Sunday.
And
we were watching
our
football.
son was here. Everybody was home except for she was down at her home.
'Cause we
in LA.
gather on
And
Sunday.
my niece called me and she was freaking out and she said, "Christy, have you talked to Kaylee?" And I said, "Yesterday, like last night." And she said, "Something bad happened to Kaylee. Something bad happened." And she was just bawling. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And she said, "I think Kaylee's dead."
My gosh, every time I hear one of these family members speak, I just try to imagine what they must be feeling if I were them, if I were in that position. And I know I can't even go there, but my God, what they must have been going through. So we heard this right from Christy Gonsalves' mouth. Everyone in the family agrees. They got the call around 1:30ish, and you heard what the call said. But you know what? This is a clip, by the way, from Chronicles of Olivia, an excellent interview that she did with the Gonsalves family. All you need to keep doing is watching about 2 more minutes of this excellent interview and really interesting conversation to gather a lot of details that a lot of people have been questioning and speculating wildly about. But the details are all right here, like little G ducks in a row. They explain everything. Please just listen.
And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she
All our
said,
stomachs just dropped.
She
We were
said
just like,
there was somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said there was a party last night and somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. I was like, "What?" And I just threw my phone. I started screaming. I started telling everybody to call Olivia and to get all her roommates on the
Maddie.
phone. And I started calling Maddie, and Maddie wouldn't answer, and I said, "No, this can't be, because Maddie would have called me. If Kaylee was shot last night at a party, Maddie or Jack would have called me. Like, no." And I called Kaylee and I went straight to voicemail. I was calling Maddie, I was calling Jack, it was ringing. I turned on the TV and I saw it said 1122 King Road.
I've been weird by some of my channel viewers. Somebody apparently is making a big deal about this, saying that any news about this tragedy wasn't even on the news, like the television news, until around 5 p.m. that evening. Well, I have an idea that Mrs. Gonsalves didn't turn on her clicker like the TV, but I think she got on the computer and went on social media. And Steve's going to clear that up in just a second, because he says, it's happening in real time. And I think that's a detail that's pretty easy to get confused. Did you get on your computer and see it on social media, or did you turn on the clicker and see it on the TV? I think it was social media.
Kaylee's car was in the driveway, Maddie's car was in the driveway, but it was saying an unconscious person. And we're saying, okay, maybe this isn't, like, maybe something happened. So Steve starts calling the police. Steven, our son, started calling the hospital, and he started calling the PD and saying, "My name is Gonsalves, and we heard that my daughter Kaylee Gonsalves was killed in an accident." And they said, "Oh, we can't give you any information. We'll call you back." Well, next thing you know, some more phones started ringing. Our daughters that came running down, 16 and 17 years old, came and said, "Mom, somebody just called me and said that Kaylee's dead." And we're like, "What? Like, who was it?" And she's like, "I don't know. It's somebody that said that they're there and Kaylee's dead." And we were like, "Oh my God, like this can't be, And it's just very, very, very dramatic.
These protocols have to be updated.
Yeah.
These protocols of somebody showing up at your door 10 hours later is ridiculous.
Because we had hours of panic
We were
before
just-
sheriff
It was
department.
terrible.
It was about 4:30, and
I
I
don't
So
blame
you guys, you know, they never called you. You guys found this out from family members
Yes.
that were in the area, and you guys didn't get notified. You actually reached out to them, and you guys still didn't get
no,
notified
he
for
wound up
hours.
calling them twice,
And I
and
get
then
it.
I
Their
said,
protocols are all about, like, you know, maybe they'll commit suicide or something, but they have to be updated because
The sheriff
social media
came.
moves so fast, so quick. That's
It's
why
not
we are
fair.
using social media.
Oh, wait, Steve, what was that?
Social media moves so fast, so quick. That's
It's not
why we are
fair.
using social media.
That's because you are using social media. So I think that clears up the Christy saying that, you know, she tried to call Maddie and she tried to call Jack and then she turned on the TV. It wasn't with her clicker. She got on the computer and she got on some social media.
I'm not using the most common channels.
we called Karen, and we asked Karen if she had heard anything, and she goes, yes, I was told that I need to get down here, but there
I
was an
thought Kurt was
accident.
good. We honestly.
We thought maybe Maddie was the unconscious person, and we had already been told by several people, like 100% Kaylee was dead.
So now get this, it's into the afternoon, and what we know based on what they're saying is the Gonsalveses had not been contacted by any officials, but Karen, Maddie Mogen's mother, was. And we're going to find out here in just a moment that she's now on her way down to the University of Idaho because she was contacted by an official, whereas the Gonsalveses were not. I can't even imagine how scary and confusing and horrifying this must have been for them.
And we were like, one hand, and
We
they're
were
bawling,
just
and they're
hoping
like
Maddie
this.
was just unconscious.
And then we're like, but Karen got a call saying to come down there. We haven't
I
got a
thought
call.
that was a good sign.
So we're like, oh,
And I kept giving them hope. I kept saying, if it happened last night, you guys would know by now. I kept giving them hope. I said, they just released an article that the roommates are being questioned right now. You know, they probably took their phones, Mom. Like, I just kept giving them hope because I live in Los Angeles. I wasn't here. And that's all I could do. But, like, it's just this feeling in your gut that, like, I just
knew.
sat with.
I knew as soon as my niece, I knew as soon as Sabrina called, I knew that it was real.
Yeah.
And she was freaking out.
And then cops showed up around
4:30. Yeah, the sheriff came around 4:30, and then he told us that there were 4 victims, and we said, "Is one of them Maddie Mogen?" And he told us yes. And then we realized that it was Kaylee and Maddie.
We
And
still knew she was going down there. I couldn't tell.
yeah, Karen was still on her way, and
Still driving.
and then she got down there, and she got there about 20 minutes after we got the news. And
Oh, y'all, look at the faces on these family members. Like, oh gosh, really? Like, when we're talking about this case, there is plenty to talk about. There's plenty to question. There's plenty to complain about. There's plenty to get all conspiracied up in. But, like, man, let's not turn it and twist it on this family. That's not good, guys. Let's, like, not do that. So, you know, for people that are confused about time zones and football games starting at different times and, you know, Steve Gonsalves and his kind of flamboyant, exaggerating ways saying 10 hours and 6 hours. And he may have given even another time frame in there. I mean, I think their message was pretty clear. But, you know, if that Steve saying 6 hours and 10 hours is throwing you for a loop and you're doing some tricky math, then, you know, according to Mrs. Gonsalves here, they got the call from the niece around 1-ish, and the police showed up around 4:30 when they knew it was for real, tragically. So now listen to what Christy Gonsalves says in another interview. G-Ducks lining up all in a row.
it's sleepless nights. It's feeling sick to your stomach. It's just being left in the dark.
Kaylee Gonsalves' mother recounting the chaos on the day she found out her daughter and Kaylee's best friend Maddie were killed, along with Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin.
There's nothing you could do. Absolutely nothing. Just, we were running around for hours just not knowing what was going on, what happened. Because we found out by people calling us. And the sheriff showed up about 3 hours later.
When you saw the sheriff, did you know?
Yes. And I had said that. I said, it's not real until the sheriff pulls up.
All right, guys. So there you have it. That's what happened. the Gonsalves family was contacted by their niece around 1-ish for hours, and Christy clarifies in this last segment 3.5 hours. They were just living a nightmare, not really know what was going on. It was chaotic. It was confusing. It's described as dramatic. Look at their faces. They're just devastated. Maddie Mogen's mom, Karen, was contacted by officials and told she better get to Moscow. So she got in the car and went. The Gonsalves family was just confused, rightfully so, and hoping upon hopes and wishing upon wishes and praying upon all prayers that Kaylee wasn't really dead. So they didn't get in their car and go there. It all makes perfect sense. So listen, the next video is going to be questioning the aspects of the investigation from literally day one that warrant questioning and that need answers. But this stuff, guys, it's just explained in their own words. Please leave a comment and let us know what you think. We all want to know what you think.